The Crucifixion of Jesus Christ. First things first, not only do all scholars across the Western world claim that Jesus did actually exist, but according to Bart Ehrman, the lead professor of religious studies, he says this regarding the crucifixion of Jesus Christ.
One of the most certain facts of history is that Jesus was crucified on orders of the Roman prefect of Judea, Pontius Pilate.
With the crucifixion of Jesus Christ being considered a historical fact by all scholars and historians within the Western world, let's go a little bit deeper to see what this crucifixion process was actually like. After the trial, along with a severe beating, Jesus Christ undertook an extreme method of torture performed by the Roman Empire, which is actually documented in 3 of the 4 Gospels. Let's start from the book of Matthew, chapter 27, verse 26.
Then he released for them Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, delivered him to be crucified.
And these words can be echoed in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 15, verse 15.
So Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released for them Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified.
So Jesus was scourged before he was crucified. Let's get a bit more of a detailed account of this found in the book of John, chapter 19, verses 1 through 3.
Then Pilate took Jesus and flogged him, and the soldiers twisted together a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and arrayed him in a purple robe. They came up to him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews," and struck him with their hands.
Reading from the scriptures, we can see with great clarity that Jesus wasn't just whipped, but rather scourged and flogged. And a whip is something very different to the Roman flagrum.
The Roman flagrum came in all different kinds and shapes. Yet the kind of flagrum that was mostly feared with the worst kind of reputation went by the name of the cat of 9 tails.
And this kind of Roman flagrum consisted of 9 leather tentacles. Running up those leather tentacles consisted of small metal dumbbell bars, along with very sharp shards of sheep bone that would slice through flesh extremely easily. Not to mention the metal barbs at the end of each tentacle.
And this was the very treatment inflicted upon Jesus Christ. Not only would the flagrum tear open flesh, but also remove flesh completely. And this kind of ongoing suffering was the very suffering Jesus Christ had to endure before having to suffer his hands and feet being pierced, to then being raised up while nailed to the wood.
And just to get a second opinion on how bad this Roman flagrum and scourging would have actually been, let's get a second opinion from a professional trauma surgeon by the name of Dr. David Acuna. Let's take a listen.
The scourge involved the use of a short whip with pieces of typically metal, sometimes bone, sometimes pieces of porcelain wrapped in these leather straps, which is then utilized to come across typically the back, the shoulders, the legs of the victim. And the first few passes across a particular body part would tear through the skin, the fat, but eventually, once the outer layers were torn away, it would start getting in the muscle and the tendon. And of course, along the way, you're ripping through all the blood vessels that supply all those tissues. And so you're losing blood the whole time.
And what makes the crucifixion of Jesus Christ all the more intriguing is that Jesus Christ himself predicted it would happen before it did, found in the book of Mark chapter 8 verse 31 through to 33.
And he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. And he said this plainly, And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and seeing his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man."
And one of the many ways Jesus would have known this was going to happen to him was because it was written in the Old Testament before he was born in what is known as a messianic prophecy, found in the book of Isaiah chapter 53 verses 5 through 6.
But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray, we have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all.
And what makes Jesus such a success compared to everybody else is that Jesus himself, even though he undertook this kind of suffering, claimed to be sinless, found in the book of John chapter 8 verse 46.
Which one of you convicts me of sin? If I tell the truth, why do you not believe me?
Jesus claimed to be without sin. That's why his sacrifice was sufficient enough to clean you from your sins. Though the crucifixion process of Jesus Christ looked like something totally brutal, you can still find love in such a brutal image, as Jesus came and did that for you. He died for us. Don't you think it's time we live for him? I hope this helped you. God bless.